It says here what the Slovenia is. It's a beautiful video here that you can see about any culture, any country in the world, and it's got 1,100 likes.
All the hidden one. It's a place where women look like they've stepped out of a fairy tale, yet are strong enough to fix a roof on their own in the middle of winter. A land where ain't...
I know so, because the people, the young men, and they had a tourist bureau that was involved in this stuff. Through Illuminatis, promoted obviously through the Google algorithm. I know so. They were involved in it. Even this was involved in it.
Slovenia is a small country tucked away in the heart of Europe, where you can drive across it in just 2 hours. But it would take a lifetime to uncover all the hidden wonders inside. It's a place where women look like they've stepped out of a fairy tale, yet are strong enough to fix a roof on their own in the middle of...
If you want to know what a Slovenia is, it returned me the error here. After I posted the comment that you see right here. If you want to know what the Slovenia is, obviously all you have to do is read this comment, and then you understand. I reposted the comment. Let's reload the page. If you want to know what the Slovenia is, all you got to do is basically read my comment. That's a Slovenia. I created a very, very simple and very, very efficient definition of Slovenia in just few sentences. You don't have to bother with it. You see it right here? You don't see any of my comments. Look. That means they have people literally selected that police this page, so that when you would be posting the comments, probably the wrong comments would not last not even maybe a few seconds, less than a minute. I don't know how long it took when I posted this comment, but let's see if the comment is still there. That's a Slovenia. Do you see the comment? Now you know what the Slovenia is. Now let me post you the comment so that you can actually read what the Slovenia is. I'm not gonna post one anymore because they may take action against me for keep posting the same comments, and I don't want to get screwed like this over by, you know, he would even look that I do something that I'm not supposed to. You see this here? You want to know what a Slovenia is? That's exactly what the Slovenia is. That's a Slovenia. Read this over, understand it, and you will know all you ever needed to know about Slovenia, what Slovenia is. For the rest of it, what you do is you Google the internet when it comes to Hudayama and other stuff that I told you. It's really, really, really easy. It will summarize in a single few sentences just like this for you to understand exactly what Slovenia is. But other than that, they have ice cream also in Albania, in Kosovo. They have ice cream also in sorry, I shouldn't use the Albania and Kosovo. I was going to say Croatia and Ukraine and this and that. No, 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 no. Other than that, they also have ice cream in Serbia. They also have it in Russia. They have it in North Korea. If you go to the North Korea, they also have the ice cream, and they also have in Belarus. You can also go to the Lukashenko. He will also give you ice cream. They have it. They have it, and it's also clean, and the women also fix the roofs during the winter. Yes, they can do it. Trust me, they can do it. That's a Slovenia. The Slovenia is this here. This is the real Slovenia. As a matter of fact, he was a kid back then. He had a beard. He was saying to me, do not fuck with this, do not fuck with this. Pointing at himself, how he contributed to this video. They have like a tourist bureau that they in charge of doing this stuff. This video here that you see. They were all involved in this stuff. Everything that you see about the Slovenia, when it comes to Slovenia, the people who did either documentaries or that they post on the internet was involved in my case. It wasn't about the mainstream media only, but it was everything they see on the YouTube pertaining to Slovenia. That's it. That's it. That's a Slovenia. I'll give you the definition of the Slovenia, what Slovenia is. In 2012, I was thrown into the psychiatric institution. And again in 2014 for my birthday. That's a Slovenia. That's a Slovenia. And if you want to learn more about it, the so-called Slovenia, you do Google Außer Times. You do Google this one here, because this one here is really, really, really dedicated to the so-called Slovenia. This one here is dedicated to the so-called Slovenia. You're going to find a video about the watches, Seiko watches, on Japanese Naruhito subject. All you ever needed to know to learn about the Slovenia is right here. I filed for the political asylum in 12 countries, in 12 different countries. If you want to know about the Slovenia, that's all you need to do is you Google Außer Times, you come here, and then you get a close detail. Not only about the Slovenia, but about entire criminal work network, basically everything on how it works from Moscow to New York, and with Berlin and London right in between. That's what you do. I was thinking about how to do this stuff, because they keep writing about Slovenia, this, Slovenia, and that. You want to know about a Slovenia? All you got to do is this thing here. And I dare you to dispute one single fact that I have written here. I dare you. Prove it. That's a Josip Broz Tito. This guy was sure that he was the most purest man in the world, together with his Communist Party. This one was certain that he was as pure as Jesus Christ. Actually, purer than Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ was just something the communism would not agree on. Killing people, assassinating women and children after the World War II even, was a normal thing. This is nothing wrong with it. It was okay. So much it was okay that Slovenian minority on the Austrian side of the border, on Italian side of the border, they cry about the Trieste, they cry about the Klagenfurt, Celovec, they cry about the Graz, and they cry about the land they lost and so on. The thing is, the people didn't want to go to Slovenia. They decided, they made what is known as a plebiscite. It's basically voting on who wants to go where. Whether you want to pertain to the greater Serbia known as Yugoslavia, or do you want to remain in Austria and or Italy. When people observed about the stuff that went on at the end of the World War II and in the end of the World War II, I think it's about 12,000 locations like this one throughout the Slovenia. I'm not sure. You see there's some mass graves here? You see what the hell this shit is? Yeah, I'm gonna go through the security gate. This is a map of the mass graves in Slovenia and also in Croatia. 1,200, sorry, 1,200. This is bullshit. 1,200. In Slovenia alone, 100,000 executed. I just want to clarify what Slovenia is. That you understand. Your video is in English. A beautiful video indeed. Very beautiful. Have a nice rakia, cognac. Beautiful ladies. They can fix the roofs in the middle of the winter. And you can do a whole lot of more stuff. But you need to tell the whole thing about what Slovenia is and what Slovenia was and is. After the World War II, after this year, after the World War II, police stations throughout the Slovenia were packed with the grandchildren and with the children and with the grandchildren. And right after the World War II, with the people who committed these mass killings, they became owners. They privatized police stations throughout the Slovenia. You're going to say, oh my God, you're fucking crazy. That cannot be true. It's inside of the Europe. It's in the heart of the Europe. It's a United Nations member. It is. It is. But after the World War II, the mass schizophrenia in Slovenia did not pertain only to liberation, for which I suggested you. Their own people did not want to annex themselves to the so-called Yugoslavia. It wasn't about only for the so-called liberation of the land, of the homeland. It was about a total change of the social order, society, which went from what used to be a kingdom of the Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes into open communism, also known under the socialism. It was so schizophrenic that myself, who was directly from the families, two families on my mother and on my father's side, both heavily participated in a partisan movement. Decorated people who even had some of their relatives killed in a battle with the Germans, to use me to prove that the neo-Nazism, fascism, in fact, still exists, and it's necessary to fight one all over the world. How the hell do you like this shit? Phrenia. Schizophrenia. You're gonna say, oh my God, that cannot be true. It cannot be true. And I'm gonna say to you,
Predsednik države Danilo Türk se je popoldne udeležil proslave v Trbovljah. Novinarji pa so ga povprašali tudi o drugih odmevnih zadevah. Poglejmo.
Danes sem tu v Trbovljah zaradi pravic žensk, zaradi enakopravnosti žensk To je izredno pomembna, prvorazredna tema v Sloveniji, tudi politična tema in danes ne nameravam dajati nobenih izjav o nobeni drugi temi.
Ampak obtožbe so zelo hude, predvsem to, da se politični vrh sploh ne odziva na razkritje takšnih zločinov.
Bom našel čas, ko bom odgovoril tudi na to, ampak rad bi ponovil. Danes sem tu zaradi prvorazredne teme in o drugorazrednih temah ne bom govoril.
Spravi so to nekaj drugorazredne teme.
Politične manipulacije okrog tega so. Še kakšno vprašanje?
I don't like the idea to use Mr. Bean.
Danes sem tu v Trbovljah zaradi pravic žensk, zaradi enakopravnosti žensk. To je izredno pomembna, prvorazredna tema v Sloveniji, tudi politična tema in danes ne nameravam dajati nobenih izjav o nobeni drugi temi.
Ampak obtožbe so zelo hude, predvsem to, da se politični vrh sploh ne odziva na razkritje takšnih zločinov.
Bom našel čas, ko bom odgovoril tudi na to, ampak rad bi ponovil. Danes sem tu zaradi prvorazredne teme in o drugorazrednih temah ne bom govoril.
Spravi so to nekaj drugorazredne teme.
Politične manipulacije okrog tega so. Še kakšno vprašanje?
Mediacija, da je z Hrvaško tudi drugorazredna tema?
V primerjavi z enakopravnostjo žensk, da.
Vendar so v rovih tudi ženske.
To ne vemo, to ne raziščejo ljudje, ki raziskujejo. Hvala lepa.
It's a funny thing. That I was meeting people in this bunkerized, I wouldn't refer to them as a communist. They claim that they were communists. They claim that every police officer is a communist. I cannot even refer to them as a people. I was going to say people. But these are really animals that are dressed up in blue. There's nothing humane in animals like this, really. What you watched right there, yeah, they claim me that the stuff I'm talking about, MK Ultra, is a telepathic communication. That's a telepathy. What you have watched right there is the Slovenian president, slovenski predsednik Danilo Turk, Slovenian president Danilo Turk, which goes directly to confirm that what you are watching in my video pertains to nothing other than fact. So next time, when you want to challenge somebody like myself, that it's going to be difficult for you because I gave birth to numerous other people who watch my program and they get to educate themselves, and based on the proofs and the evidence, they start to understand the environment where they really are at. And that's where it all starts to get really problematic for the Slovenia, for the British Royals, for the Germans, for Americans, for all others behind whom the so-called Slovenia have aligned itself up to convince the world that in fact it's a normal country, is simply falling apart. Here, right there, proven with the facts, Slovenia is exactly what I stated in this video. So now, if you ever happen to have, again, any kind of issue with understanding where politically stands Slovenia, what Slovenia is, what makes Slovenia, just remember, Slovenia is a schizophrenic, schizo shit state with its people, literally not only politicians, craving for the masters from the Belgrade. Say homeless people. Because if you don't have the homeland, you can have a house, you can have whatever the fuck you have, but you don't have your homeland, your country. You don't have really anything, do you? That's all there is in respect to Slovenia. You can go see Danilo Turk when that happened, actually. You can check the date and time yourself. And then you go, you come in my face, and you say to me ever again that Slovenia is a normal state, that this is a country, that this is a nation, it's a democracy in the heart of the Europe. Just come in my face and fucking tell me that. Even as a flag, the way you see it, right there, Slovenes selected to have a Russian flag, a Ruski flag. It's almost I forgot about it. So the definition that I gave you about the Slovenia, that is the real definition of the Slovenia. That's exactly what Slovenia is. That's precisely and nothing other than what I pointed you out in this video. The Russian flag, democracy in the heart of the Europe, that's what that is. We wouldn't even have this case of mine. My case would not even exist. It would not even exist. This case of mine would not even exist. It had to be in Slovenia. There was no other way than for this case to take place inside of the Slovenia. There was no other way. This also goes and also demonstrates what United States of America, greater than Great Britain, and also other countries served, to what purpose they served to. It couldn't be in any other, couldn't be any other way. Do you see where the Slovenia is? Like on the map. This is the world. It couldn't be any other way. This right here, this used to be a Soviet Union. All this used to be a Soviet Union. All this thing here. This was a Soviet Union. Sorry, that's a Mongolia, which also was under the Soviet Union. This was a Soviet Union, ladies and gentlemen. Let me zoom in it a little bit so that you can see from up closer. See this here? See where the Slovenia is? Slovenia is located on the furthest west, further from Poland. Just about the only other country like this today is known as the Czech Republic. That will be a Czech Republic. Look at yourself on a map. I'm not going to be playing with this stuff now. So this shit actually was a master plan of the Josip Broz Tito. It was a master plan of the Stalinist Putin and Milan Kučan and Robert Golob and Borut Pahor and so on. It couldn't be any other way. This right here, this used to be known previously as the Warsaw Pact. This side of the border. This would all go under the so-called the Soviet Union. Now the Europe is very, very, very small all of a sudden, isn't it? Germany also was part of the Warsaw Pact. All this was practically part of the Soviet Union. Everything you see right there. To the right of the blue that you see, not even red anymore, everything was USSR. USSR. Now in my case, that I demonstrated you, that red dot that you have seen it right there, which indicates my location, Slovenia. That could not really happen anywhere in Ukraine. It couldn't happen in Minsk. It couldn't happen in Poland. It must have happened in Slovenia, because it's a furthest point toward the west. And for what Yugo-Führers such as Milan Kučan, Borut Pahor, other garbage here, Danilo Turk, etc., it's even worthless to talk about. They calculated that eventually stuff they did to me through corruption will contribute to the new creation of the Soviet Union by beginning with the Slovenia, basically pushing one back into the USSR. So this Brito-German-American corruption ideology they created, they procalculated with the Russians that if they're about to start making USSR again, they shouldn't be doing here or here or here, but they have to do it here in Slovenia, because this is where the border has to go. If you are to push one back into the Russia, into the greater than great Serbia, Czechoslovakia, then you have to start it right there. You can't start it anywhere. You can't start inside of the system. You have to go to the outer borders of what used to be a Soviet Union and start the shit over there with assistance of Americans, British, and all other garbage that was involved and that so greatly contributed to this, I don't even know how I would, total dehumanization process through United Nations, International Criminal Court, since it made no fucking use to complain to European Court of Human Rights or to the European Commission or to European Ombudsman, the so-called European Union Ombudsman, and the American U.S. Justice Department of State, etc., etc. That's Slovenia. So if you want to know what this Slovenia is, it's a standard for the corruption, for the most criminal, disgusting ways that exist out there to undermine, to kill, through corruption, to demonstrate publicly, to go global, basically, to convince the world, basically, that this is the way to go. You don't want to ask what Slovenia is? That's what Slovenia is. See this here? See this hammer here? They thought that they're going to hammer, beginning here, they're going to hammer back to the USSR with unprecedented crime that United States of America, British, French, Italians, everybody else contributed to my case to fuck me up like this. Yeah? That's a Slovenia. So just that you know who explained to you this. You heard this from the best one. You heard this from the one that pushed the borders that you see. The borders that you saw directly into the stuff that you see here. You heard that from me. Now you know it didn't work. Now you know why your allies did this stuff, why they continue to do this stuff, and what kind of war also is the war in Ukraine. about the stuff that goes on, what they run, what they push forward to. They were going to do it through Slovenia. They are going to do it. And it didn't work for them. It have fallen them apart yet again. Wrong person. They were going to do it through the war they created between me and the entire world. So it was important to portray me as an enemy of every nation, of every human being on earth, so that people could see themselves in the USSR, in a greater Serbian Chetnik state, Chetnikoslavia, Serbia. That's what this shit was all about. That's what this shit is all about. You're going to think that I don't know what the hell this shit is about. That's exactly what this stuff is about. That's what you wanted to prove. You wanted to prove I'm a bad person and mentally ill and everything else in between. You heard this from the man who charted the borders over there that you see on the map that exists today. Not from somebody who was entitled to get his crown, to be thrown the crown based on his mommy and daddy. You got this information from the best of the best ever. The one who actually went out there, the one who actually did it. Not sit it inside of the office, inside of the palace, scratch his ass, but who actually did it and was in return thrown into the psychiatric hospital, killed practically. You heard this from the best of the best. Just remember this. From the real, not from the fake. This Russian, Slovenian, Russian flag animals, this Srbonia from Slovenia, they even negotiated with Americans about who's going to recognize this case, if it ever will be recognized. They negotiated this with Americans. They negotiated this with Ursula von der Leyen, whom you continue to praise as somebody, as something. With a dickhead Charles from London, and with the rest of the pack. And they were cool with it. In fact, it would be Putin, it would have been Russia. It would be Putin. Putin would be the Putin. But they never asked me about it. They never asked me about what I think. About their Slovenian technology of reassembling Czechoslovakia and Soviet Union. Didn't ask me anything about that stuff. And they did a lot of bad stuff to me through international court, through United Nations. Nowhere more bad stuff than through U.S. Justice Department, say FBI, CIA, European Union Commission, European Court for Human Rights. But it was all in vain for nothing. It did not work.